I'd like to thank you all for coming to this Coffee with the Mayor of Buckeye. We are so glad you were able to come. Mayor Meck will be leaving us about 10 o'clock or so. So we're going to start with Mayor Meck and get several questions that he's going to be answering and give you a really great overview and insight into Buckeye, what it is and where it's going and what you can look forward to. And then we're going to take a short little break. And we'll come back, and we are fortunate that we also, Mayor Meck has brought with him his Economic Development Director, David Roderique, is that correct? Roderique, thank you. And also his Water Director, Resources Director, and that is Mark Seamans. So we're going to start with all of them up here on stage, and then at the break you'll notice the mayor has left us, but he has a pressing appointment someplace else. So with that, I'd like to welcome Mayor Meck, and David and Mark. So please come up, and Mayor, you can sit here. Mayor can be here.
Mayor there?
Yeah, Mayor's here. So right here, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, are we on?
You are on.
Okay, good morning. My name's Buckeye Meck. I'm the mayor of the great state of Buckeye. And I told the governor that too. He didn't smile like all of you. Thank you. I had several questions, so I went through and picked them up. I have a tendency to chase rabbits, and by that I mean I can start talking about, if you want to know about water, you don't have all day. You want to talk about development in Buckeye, you don't have all day. You want to know my history, you don't have all day. So I'm going to hit some high spots, and what I don't hit, these two guys are very qualified to do what we need to do. They're an asset to our community, and they're new within the last couple of years, 3 years, so they're good, and they know what's going on. So what's happening in Buckeye? When I was born in 1941, there was 1,200 people, and I was just mentioning one of our residents, that there was 1,200 people that counted dogs, chickens, and cats, I think. Today, we're close to 70,000. When we grow up, the 600 square miles that Buckeye will be about 1,800,000. So the question that I've been asked first is, what's my vision for the next 5 to 10 years? I don't look in terms of 5 to 10 years. I'm looking in terms of 50 to 100 years. What I'm saying right now to all of our staff people, we are artists, and we have a mural that we're painting. And that mural is going to be a Michelangelo 50 or 100 years from now, or it's going to be a Doug. So I want it to be a Michelangelo. Because of the growth that we're having, we are a small community. And by that, we're building a city. 2 years ago, it was the town of Buckeye. The town of Buckeye was the #2 fastest growing city in the nation. So town of Buckeye, to me, sounded like a child. City of Buckeye sounds like you're grown up. Since we went to the city, when we go to the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, I used to sit in the back end with 91 other mayors and vice mayors and council people in the MAG meetings. Now that I'm a city, I'm #3 next to the person that's leading. So that makes me feel like we're up where we belong. I go out to sell Buckeye. I'll go anywhere, 24/7. I've been to Mexico, I've been to Texas, I've been to Canada, I've been to San Diego. Not San Diego for the beaches, I go for business. I say that we're open for business. In fact, when I started saying that, former Governor Brewer made the statement, the state of Arizona is open for business. And I said, hey, wait a minute. Governor, that's mine. That's registered. That's patented, so don't use that. So anyway, by looking 50 years from now, what do we need? Jobs. 80% of our people head east every morning for jobs. Recently, we got what's called a large company. It's a truck company that we believe might be coming into Buckeye. They've committed to that. So hopefully, and I'm just going to say that's 2,000 employees, and David will take you into more detail as he can, but that's 2,000 employees. Each one of those employees generate 10 more jobs. So that's approximately 20,000 people. 2,000 working in that manufacturing setting That means for everyone that works inside, there's 10 outside. 10 outside means it's going to be somebody that's going to be furnishing the framework. Somebody else furnishes the transmission, the rear end. There'll be electric motors. Somebody's got to furnish those. Paint. Somebody's got to furnish those. Generally, with that type of thing that I've seen, my son lives in Jackson, Mississippi, and I watched the Toyota plant and the Honda plant build. And around it, within 2 miles, there's a certain setting of equipment that is provided to be on the assembly line. The next area, maybe it's paint. The next one is seats. The next one maybe carpeting. I mean, those are the things that go with it. So all of those things generate more jobs. So again, 2,000 employees will be coming with the company. So that'll generate an additional 20,000 jobs. So that's what we're after. That's coming in the future. They're going to be building west of the white tanks. West of the white tanks, there's about 100,000 acres that will be developed. Tartesso is on the south end, so to speak, next to I-10. Up by Bell Road is what we call Sun City Festival. Both of those are growing very fast. H.R. Horton Homes, recently, within the last year or less, has bought 2,300 lots in Buckeye. They're building. Right now, we're number 7 in the nation, fastest growing, over 50,000. The way we've started out, January and February, if we keep this up, we probably will beat our record in 2005 and 6, 7. We will beat that, so it'll be more growth than what we have now. 20 years from now, they say we're going to be around 300,000 people. So if you'll go into the detail on what Douglas can build once they start with this facility. So what are we planning for water? We have lots of water. Poor quality, but lots of water. Every city in the Arizona has water that has arsenic and fluoride. It has to be treated. One of the questions says, and then I'm going to hit the high spots, why is the water cost so high? Think about it. First of all, Buckeye is 100% groundwater. If we drill a well today, it's approximately $1.2 million to drill the well. That means a hole in the ground with a casing. Now you've got to put a pump in it, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. The casing has to be a certain quality of casing because it rusts if it's not. And because it's potable water, you have to put that in it. That's additional cost in drilling the wells, $1.2 million. You have to find the best quality water you can. So you zonal test from the ground all the way to the bottom. And you find a little strip in there that's good water. There's nothing to say that good water is going to be good 20 years from now. Because as you draw water out of the ground, other waters come in, it mixes. Now you need a sewer plant. Not a sewer plant, but a water plant. And Mark will get into that, but my point is you drill the well, $1.2 million plus. Now you've got to put a pump in it. You've got to put a motor to turn the pump, I assume. You got to have electricity to run the motor to run the pump. You can turn it on, the water runs out on the ground. Doesn't help you. So what do you have to do? You got to connect it to a pipe. Where's the pipe go? 15 miles down the road, you got to put it in a tank. Pipeline costs about $1 million a mile plus, depending on the soil structure. Get into the tank, $1 million plus, because you need a big tank. You got to pump the water out of the tank. That's a pressure pump. You got to pump it out of the tank onto the ground. Nope, you got to put in some more pipe. You run the pipe down the middle of the street. The citizen pay from the middle of the street to the house. All of this costs money, lots of money. People say, why is your water so high? Nobody else in the valley has just pumps. They have pumps and surface water. Big difference in the cost. So once you get that water into the house, what happens? Oh, flush the toilet. You're going to run it out on the ground? No. You got to put in another pipe. Can't run them together. Potable water and sewer water doesn't mix, according to EPA, federal government rules and regulations. So now you take it out, you got to put in a sewer plant, $30, $40 million, depending on the size. It could be $100 million. Again, you got to take it out of the house, put it in a pipe, take it somewhere to a sewer plant. You have to treat it. You have solids and you have liquids. Liquids you can do something with. Solids, you've got to figure out what you're going to do with solids. The plant that's in 91st Avenue, City of Phoenix, they take their solids and they haul it to farm fields. You can't put it around any wells. You have to be so many feet away from it. So what do then is you've got all of these same reoccurring costs, taking it out of the house, the same as putting in. And somewhere in between, you have a plant that's called a potable water treatment facility. So that costs $20, $30, $40 million, depending on the size of what you need. In our case, we need big ones. Now, we can't afford it now till we get 300,000 or 400,000 people. Why does our water cost so much money? That's why it costs so much money. So Mark will get into the new systems that we've set up and such as that. We raised the water bill, we meaning the city council, after 24 years. We raised the water price and they said we should not have done that. We had to raise it in order because we were subsidizing from Peter to Paul, the right pocket to the left pocket. You can't be sustainable as a community financially if that happens. So what happened is we raised it for the first time in 24 years. Not one 70,000 citizen in the city of Buckeye, older people like me or new people, said, we really appreciate you not raising the water price for 24 years, but why are you raising the price now? What are you doing? I'm being very passionate because it's frustrating when you go out and you tell people these kind of things. People don't understand the cost. The more salt you have in the water, what's called total dissolved salt, the more maybe even fluoride, arsenic, you have to treat all that in this facility. It costs more money. So those are reasons. Big one is that we don't have surface water. We now have 4,000 acre-feet of CAP water that we've applied for. So that will be surface water in the future. There's other things that we're dealing with. We have 60,000 acres of farmland. There's about 80 wells. When that farmland develops, there's 80 wells. I was general manager of one of the water companies. We used 110,000 acre-feet of water per year. When that farmland, approximately 21,000 acres, when that goes into development, which it eventually will, it's part of Buckeye, we will have 120,000 acre-feet of water, groundwater, 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 groundwater. We'll have that available. We can treat it and sell it as potable water. So where are we getting our water? Out of the ground. We've got to get more surface water. We're talking to an EPCOR group that gets water out of the CAP and also around the Peoria area. There used to be a agricultural water district up here. That has become potable water source. The wells that are in the RID, Roosevelt Irrigation District, they have about 35,000 acres. There's another 100,000 acre-feet of water. We've got lots of water for quality. Groundwater, sewer plant, water treatment plant, lots of pipe. That's why water costs a little bit more in Buckeye. We only recently caught up with the price that we don't have to subsidize. Let's see, what people ask, what is the two-story home that the city moved down on the south end of Miller Road that's on the river? That was a building, two-story house that was in the Buckeye area. One of the things, a individual bought the house and moved it down to the river. I'm going to say 6, 7 years ago, and he was going to make a brewery out of it. Well, he never stuck around. He left and such, and make a long story short, the building has collapsed. It's in the river. It does not belong to the city. The city did not pay to move it. The city has nothing to do with it. The city can't do anything with the building because it's in the county and the river bottom. So there's nothing we can do with it, nothing we can do about it. It's a bad picture. But if you don't go down there, you don't see it. So I suggest you stay away from it. But that is not the city. Recently, I'm the treasurer of what's called the Interstate 11 Coalition. I have been for about 6 years. That's people that really pushing that is what's called the Douglas Ranch and the Belmont Partners. The Douglas Ranch is 35,000 acres. That will be in excess of 100,000 homes. One subdivision in Buckeye. Verado is 8,300 acres. One subdivision. We have the Sundance, 13,000 acres. One subdivision. Tartesso, about 17,000 acres total, including some ground that was recently sold for, I think, $20, $30 million. You can go back, $80 million. So we have a place called Belmont Partners and the Douglas Ranch. That's where supposedly some point the Interstate 11. Interstate 11 is a Canamex highway. It's going from Old Mexico to Canada. I can tell you it will happen. Maybe not in my lifetime, but it will happen. It could happen very quickly depending on what Congress does with the transportation plan. We meaning, and I hate the word I and me and I and we meaning I-11 Coalition is pushing real hard, and it's in the transportation program for what's called Tier 2. We have completed Tier 1, which is $15 million. Tier 1 is nothing more than saying this is the area that's going to be going in. That could be an area of 5 to 10 miles wide. Tier 2 is done and says in that 5 or 10 mile wide area, it will be a corridor 1,500 feet wide, 1,200 feet wide, 900 feet wide. But the corridor is here. Once that is established and done, that's going to determine where the freeway is going to go. If you go to Nevada, when you cross over the bridge, as soon as you cross the bridge on the west side of the main road going into Nevada, that's the Interstate 11 in Nevada. They've already gone as far north into Nevada before they have to start doing some studies, obviously environmental studies from there to the north end of Nevada. So what has happened is Buckeye, we're connecting between I-10 and Wickenburg. About 90% of the land, patented, deeded land, is owned by Belmont Partners and Douglas Ranch. Douglas Ranch, again, is in the city of Buckeye, roughly 30 to 35,000 acres. Belmont is approximately 20,000 acres plus. Both of those today are desert. One of those, Douglas Ranch, is what's called, there's an area they call Trillium. That's where the truck company, and that's what I'd like for him, the Economic Development Director, David, to give you the details on that. That's where that will go. Belmont Partners has been a partnership for about 20 years. A guy named Bill Gates, I say it's Uncle Bill. Bill Gates bought $80 million or put $80 million in that partnership that's been there. Rumors are that he wants to make a smart city out of it. Smart city are cars, vehicles that don't have drivers, fiber optic, things in buildings that are for the future. Smart city. That's what we understand is going to be happening. We don't know. I'm going to attempt, in fact, I think we just got last couple of days, the managing partner of Belmont. I'm going to sit down and talk to him. They're in the county. Douglas Ranch is not.
Wave your hands.
Am I yelling?
No. Hang on a second. There we go. I've been kicked out of places, but nobody's ever turned the lights on. They were very, very still.
I didn't mean to do whatever I did.
They're captivated.
So Bill Gates, we know nothing about. I maintain probably all of it. If you don't know Uncle Bill, Uncle Bill is the wealthiest man in the world, not just the USA, but the world. So I call him Uncle Bill. I mean, you believe that? I'll sell you the San Francisco Bridge and throw the water in free. So what's happened is that he has bought into this group, and it's all desert. Douglas Ranch is all desert. So those are things that we're dealing with big time. I think what's going to happen with the trucking company, as I see what we think is happening, there's going to be a lot of ancillary businesses come in around it, and I think that's going to generate a lot of jobs for Buckeye also. Recently, we got a Cardinal Glass. Cardinal Glass makes the window panes. It's glass in between, and the glasses have gas in it. They're the largest seller of the window pane. I say the window pane, the window glass, to Anderson, as an example. They put the frame around it. They can produce 100 window panes an hour. They have already ordered equipment which will take them to 600 plus window panes per hour. They've hired 100 people, 85 of them are for Buckeye. That's good. We want that because we need jobs, and I want jobs. Someday I'm going to die, I think, and if that happens, then I want jobs where people can live, work, and play in Buckeye. I maintain that Buckeye is open for business before Jan Brewer made that statement. This is my 5th term as mayor. I have enemies and I have friends. So I got more friends off of it than I have enemies so far. So I'm continuing to grow up. But what we are doing is for 50 to 100 years from now, not 5 to 10. So those are areas that I thought if I could cover up front real quick. I'm passionate about my community. I want it to grow. I want it to be a good place for people to come. Whenever I mention Peoria, or Elmwood, or Youngtown, or Boothdale, I don't say those words in the city. It's Buckeye, the great state of Buckeye. So if you have a couple questions, I can maybe answer them.
Well, let's see. We had a lot of questions from the mayor come in, so let me just quickly go through a couple and see if I can find something real quick. All right, so you've given us some great updates on and what you're looking forward in the next 50 years or so. When it comes to the responsiveness of the city to homeowners, property owners, and residents' concerns, who do they go to? Who should their first stop be? If they don't know who else to go to, no matter what their concern is, it could be trash, it could be the park down the street. Who should they be going to? Should they be going to you? Who should they be going to for when they first have a concern about what's going on in the city?
Okay, it usually comes to me after it's a major concern.
Okay.
Generally, you can call City Hall, and I think when Mark talks about the new system that we're setting up, it's $1 million investment that we have set up, recently, within the last couple of months. It's gone online. He's been running the program, the old program, simultaneously with the new program. So you go on the website and you can pull up and see how much water you used yesterday. I'm not going to get into it. Maybe you can call and see how much water you're using today. But you can go on the website and see how much water you used yesterday. So day before yesterday, if you use 300 gallons, say, for the day, and the next day you use 1,000 gallons, you got a problem. Or else your grandkids have turned all the showers on and went in and watched television. I can say that because I have a 4th grade grandson. He loves to go in and turn the shower on to get the hot water, but then he gets to watch the television. Now, the water's still running, the water bill goes up. I had a bill personally that went over $400, and I couldn't find what the problem was. Every month I go out in the little meter out in the front of my house, I take the lid off, I make sure all the water's off in the house, and if that little thing, that little triangle is moving, water's running. I take little pills and put them in the toilets and double check. If you see, once you put them in the tank, if it's in the bowl, you got a problem. A drop, and I'll let Mark get into that, just a drop, you will be surprised. I looked all over. I'm a farmer, so I understand pipes and you know, I've got drip system. I looked all over, I couldn't find it, but I have a little fountain in the backyard where water runs. There's a float, and the float, like in a cattle feed or horse feed trough, this little float, and I opened it up and looked at that. I went back out and looked everywhere. I could not find it, but I knew I had a leak. So I get my son-in-law, we turn on, I go around, check all of the things where water could possibly come out. Couldn't find it. I thought the only place that can be is in that little fountain. So I go out, I take the lid off, get down on my hands and knees, and I could barely see the water moving. Barely. So I took a shovel and stuck it under the float and went out and looked. My little triangle wasn't turning. My bill was $400. Took me 6 weeks to find it. So whenever people call City Hall and have you checked for leak, people get angry because you say, well, have you checked the leak? That's the first problem that somebody has. If you had 300 gallons day before yesterday, and I'm being extreme, and it went to 1,000 the next day or today, you have a problem. It's probably a leak, unless your grandchild turned the water on and went in and watched the leak. So you call City Hall. We're trying to update our customer service. Again, you have to understand, I tell our people, our staff people, if we aren't doing something, you aren't going to make mistakes. But you aren't going to get anything done either. So if our people make a mistake, we're normal. And we want to correct it as soon as we can. And that's what these guys have done. We have good staff. Whenever it gets to my level, this lady right here, Christine Grundy, she'll get an angry call. And I tell she and the others, if you get an angry call from a citizen, and that citizen starts yelling or cussing, I want them to say, I'm going to give your number to the mayor, and he'll call you, and I will. And I'll find out what the problem is, and we'll get it taken care of. Probably she takes care of 90% of it when it comes to her level. Staff can do it all, and they do it all. People just get angry, and we understand that. It's frustrating. You're getting ready to go to work, or you got to get the kids to school. That's understandable. But we're human too. These people are human too. So when you pick up the phone and start yelling, I'll call you, and I'm normal. You start yelling at me, I'll yell back. You start cussing me, I'll cuss you. But I am not going to have the staff. They're not paid to take that kind of abuse. And it's not necessary, because we can take care of it once we know it. But we may not know it. You're just angry, or they're angry, or a citizen can be angry. How many people in here are from Buckeye? Okay, that's my story. You call me and you start cussing me. I'm a Christian and I don't believe in that, but I'll only take so much, because I can't take 200 calls a day. I'm glad you live in Buckeye. I want you to live in Buckeye, but you need to help us, help you. And that's calling, I got a problem. What's your problem? She'll tell you, I'll have Mark call you, and he'll call you within an hour or less, probably. He may call you in 2 minutes. So the things that are going on is a growth. The city 2 years ago was the town of Buckeye, as I mentioned. Now we're a city. So we're growing up, but understand Buckeye is starting from scratch. 20 years ago, we were around 5,000 or 6,000 people. We're right at 70,000 people right now. So we're building a city. I went to ASU's, Gilbert, Mesa, Chandler, nothing between Tempe and Chandler, nothing but farmland, alfalfa. Nothing between Tempe and Mesa. Go to Gilbert, for heaven forbid, you better take your lunch, because it's a long ways over there. And when you get over there, there's a railroad track. And on one side, there's a feed store for animals. On the other side was a grocery store for people. That was Gilbert. The rest of it was all farm. Buckeye was all farm. Today we have 60,000 acres. I would hope, because I am a farmer, I would hope we can keep some of the agrarian type, maybe hay, maybe cotton, maybe 5-acre blocks of some, farming, where we can keep the history of the community in Buckeye. We actually started growing In 1888, we were incorporated roughly 1925, mid-20s. Buckeye's 120 years old. So we're young compared to a lot of other people. But we started with 600 square miles of dirt, other than historic downtown Buckeye. And what happened then is we started growing, and we're going to keep growing, and we're providing for that growth. But you have to have a little bit of patience. If you get somebody and they've already had 5 people call them and cuss them or whatever, or scream at them, whatever the case may be, and they get you and you get upset, that's understandable. We're human, they're human, and you're human. So we understand all that. So anyway, next question. One more.
One more question? Okay, great, thank you. So how can realtors help promote the city of Buckeye to their clients? You have a great website, but beyond that, what else would be great resources and great things for realtors to be able to help their clients know more about city of Buckeye?
I would tell you what you're doing right here. This is the second one in this is my 21st year in City Hall. So this right here is the second one, the second one that we've done this with. So that's information for you. You can get information off our website as we grow. I'm hoping it will be a type of a website that you can go on and see where these things are coming from and going to. Our problem is we're so scattered out. When you go from downtown Buckeye to Sun City Festival, that's right at 35, 38 miles. If you go south of Buckeye to the south end of our city limits, planning area rather, that's 20 miles. So our west line from the northwest to the southwest, 60 miles. Wow. That's big. We're 600 square miles. Phoenix is 500 square miles. So I tell Mayor Stanton, hang on, get out of our way. We're coming. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you for coming in. So we're going to take a quick 7-minute break, and then we'll come back, okay?
Okay.
Actually get water. So you had a water hotline, and you've done several things to help correct that and get information out. Why don't you tell us about what that was and what is going forward?
Sure. An exciting period in the city of Buckeye for sure. From basically October 16 till roughly about June of last year, we had a lot of customer complaints about our meter readings and high water bills. As a matter of fact, my very first day on the job, when the previous director resigned and went on to other things, I got a call on Sunday morning from Mr. Klinger, Roger Klinger, our city manager. Look at this post. He sent me an email. Look at this post. So I looked at the post, and the gentleman in our Sun Valley area got a water bill for over $400,000 on 23 million gallons of water. And I knew the area, and I said to myself, well, that system can't produce 23 million gallons in a year. So how did he get a 23 million gallon water bill? But that was my first day on the job. And so, immediately, it's been an uphill climb. It went down pretty fast, and then we started moving up. But we, it's one of those things where, as the mayor alluded to, we're humans. There was a human error. The gentleman had a new meter put in. And what happened was when we take a meter out, we take a read. And then we put a meter in, we take a new read. And then at the end of the month, we do the math and we put it together. Well, when somebody entered in the numbers, they entered in a couple extra zeros. And so this poor gentleman got a $400,000 water bill. Now, that was the extreme end. There were a lot of folks who had $1,000 water bills and things of that nature. And we admitted the fact that there was some human error in some of the recording of the numbers. We've since added a brand new metering system. We now do everything electronically. We have a device that takes the number right off the meter and then sends it to our customer service billing. That process has been in place now for a better part of 6 months, and we've been seeing a lot more accuracy. And we've seen a lot of drop off in the phone calls. However, during that process, it became pretty evident that we had a problem, and so we addressed the problem head on. One of the things that I did immediately was change the way we did business. a typical response, and some have heard this, well, you've got a leak, pay the bill or we're going to shut you off. And that was an industry response that, well, that's how other people do it, and that's how this city does it. And that's not how Buckeye is going to do business. And so I changed the paradigm within our group, and I basically put a mantra in front of everybody. Customer service is paramount. We will do whatever it takes to provide the best customer service to our folks because they deserve it. They're paying for the services. You're paying, we have to deliver. That's what we do. And so with that, we established the fact that we established what's called a hotline. We put a dedicated phone number and we asked everybody to call that number. Now, a lot of people had to wait. And there was a reason for that. Because not only do we provide customer service, I'm changing the paradigm. We're providing customer care. Okay? So every one of you who pays a water bill deserves the right to understand what's going on. That may take time. And when we have a customer service representative who's on the phone for 5, 6, 7 minutes, some of you would say, how can you do business like that? Well, we're providing customer care and not customer service. We want you to understand that we're going to help you through your problem. Well, what does that do? It backlogs other phone calls. And that's where, again, we had to make some shifts and things. We added some more staff. We had to bring some other people in. I had, as we're growing, as the mayor said, I had positions slotted for operators and field technicians. I transferred those over. They're now customer service representatives. So I gave up positions in order to make sure that customer service is paramount. In the 6 months that we really were at the height of the issue, we changed the paradigm again on how we deal with people. And so we created, we always had water audits. If you're familiar, I saw a question on the water audit. So what a water audit was really we waited almost until the last minute, until the very last time that we talked to you, which ultimately meant that we aggravated the customer to a point that they almost wanted to give up. Mm-hmm. And I said, no. When you call the hotline, you will automatically be put on the audit list. So we rolled a truck, we rolled a technician out to your house. We helped you through understanding how the water meter, you heard the mayor say, when you see that little red dial spinning, we showed you how to do that. We showed you how to read your own meter. Then we went through and did an extensive water audit where we helped you to understand your irrigation system, your sprinkler system. A lot of people didn't know that they had timers. A lot of people didn't know that, hey, when I bought this house 3 years ago, I didn't know this was here. I didn't know that the timing was set. I didn't know that water was running 7 days a week, 3 times. I mean, we had some folks who had a lot of water use in that time frame. And so we took the extra step and we did that. And we gained a lot of the customer confidence back, we feel. And so by doing so, we had over 550 calls. We handled every one of them. Every one of them had a water audit. Okay, so that's rolling a truck. We estimated from the time a person made a phone call until the time the final decision was made was roughly about $250. It cost us in employee time, times 500. So we put a harsh investment of money into making sure that this was right. The water hotline now today hasn't had a phone call in over 3 months. So we feel like Christine city mayor's office, we get 5-10 calls a day. She hasn't got a call in months on water-related items. So I think we're doing our job. I think we're making the change and we're making a positive change. But that's not over. That's not done. We actually hired a full-time position. Elsa is our conservation and education specialist. It is her job to start reaching out to folks who have these problems. Under this program now, the mayor touched briefly on our new electronic program and how you can read water in days. We're not 100% ready to roll that out yet for the public to be able to see your water meters. We're still dealing with some technical issues. However, we can see them, okay? So we're in there now, and what we're doing is we're actually creating what we're calling a high consumption, high usage report. We can see, we've set triggers in this thing to tell us if there is water, consistent flow for 24 hours, put it on a report, and Elsa will generate that report once a week. Now, normal house usage, you don't have water running for 24 straight hours, right? Usually in the morning when you shower, midday, later on in the afternoon, but it's never 24 straight hours. That's our trigger. If we see that, Elsa will give you a phone call. We see this happening. Is there anything that we can help you with? Do you understand? Do you know that there's a water leak? Do you know that something's happening? We're seeing it. We don't want you to get a bill because we will charge you for that, okay? But we want to get ahead of the curve. So the proactive customer service being paramount. is what we're going to. Now, there will be a time when the water meter service, that as the mayor had told you about, where you will be able to go into yourself. You'll be able to log on to the portal through the website. You'll be able to establish your own trigger points. Hey, if I only want to do 500 a month, when I hit 501, send me an email, send me a text, send me something, give me a phone call. The system will automatically respond in that way. Now, 500 gallons a month is a really low number. So, be conscious of what you really do. Average customer in Buckeye uses between 5,000 and 7,000 gallons a month. So we'll have that technology there to be able to do that. A lot of transition last year through when we bought the global water system, we contracted with them to do our customer service. And there were a lot of issues on that. And that's where a lot of our phone calls, because when people were calling, they thought they were calling the city of Buckeye, okay? Because the water bill said city of Buckeye. But what they were really doing was calling the Fathom or the formal global folks who had no vested interest in what was happening. Their response was, you have a leak, fix it, okay? And so frustrating for us, frustrating to manage that. We sat down, we met with them on several occasions. Yes, we got the message, Mark, thank you, we'll help you out, and we still kept getting phone calls. So we decided, you know what, we're going to take the right tactic, we're going to move in this direction, and that's where we are today. We have 100% control over all customer service billing now for all of our customers. We are going through and we've installed all of those electronic reading devices now on all of our customers. And we're going through now and just making sure that they're all communicating. And remember, these are electrical devices. And they have, there's a radio read, if you've heard about that. And what it is, basically, the meter will send a signal, the dial spins, it sends a number, the electronic device picks it up, sends it to the cloud. Don't ask me how that works, but they tell me it works. And then our customer service billing folks will pick that up on a daily basis, and then we'll bill you on a monthly basis. Okay, they're electronic devices. They're wires that connect from the unit to the meter. When we have a system that's down, we have all of these things registered on our computer, and when our technicians go out, they'll look for, we've got red dots, yellow dots, and green dots. Green dot means signals are happening. Yellow dots means there's some interruption. Maybe it's, literally, it's an electronic signal, so anything can interfere with it, right? A red dot, we're going to go look at that meter. And what we have found on a lot of cases in Buckeye, that it is still a rural area, gophers will chew through the little wire, okay? And so when people don't get the electronic signal, hey, I'm looking at my computer, I can't see anything, we will roll a truck, we'll go check it out, but more than likely it's something is interrupting that signal. We've had people park their cars on top of the meter because they don't want us to get to the meter. We've had people put boulders on the meter. Under construction purposes, they'll put the dumpsters on the meter. They'll put pallets of rocks on the meter, keeping us from really being able to do our job. We work through those things. But all in all, lately we've turned that tide. I think our best investment right now is the fact that we've hired this technician, put that person in place to specifically deal with customer service issues. So I hope that you guys are hearing it's getting better out there. We're working really, really hard. As the mayor alluded to, we have customer service representatives. They are human, and they will make a mistake. We ask for patience, okay, and understand that we're providing customer care. So if we take 5 or 6 minutes or 7 minutes with somebody, we're doing it because they have an issue. We'll do it with you when we get to that phone call. So be patient. So.
And you were telling me earlier, as part of that customer service and awareness and education on social media, you had a social media presence. Can you just quickly tell us about that?
We had a presence, all right. One of the things that we did early on is we previous administration, didn't put a whole lot of credence into social media. That was our mistake. Social media today, I was telling you earlier, it started with one Facebook hit, and then it was 5, and then it was 10, and then it was 100, and then it was 200, that fast. And it was all about, yeah, I did the same thing. Yeah, my bill was like that. Yeah, those. And we got a lot of really vindictive, hard, harsh comments. We're simply trying to do our jobs. We made mistakes. We admitted that. We have to make changes. If anybody's ever been in the Navy or has driven a big boat or a big truck, you cannot turn that on a dime. It takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day. It didn't demolish in a day. All those, axioms that you want to use. But we needed to pay more attention to that. What we have done so far, and since then, is we've actually created a persona to get into these Facebook groups called Buckeye. You may have seen them online. Buckeye is, our way of being able to take some of these comments, and our communications group will ask those people to go offline, and we'll help you describe what your problem is and get through the problem. And it has mitigated a lot. It's really calmed down. But at the first time, it's like, it's Facebook. We had no idea. We had no idea the power of the media. I just got back from a conference in San Antonio, utility management conference, and one of the main topics there was communications, and there were lots and lots of cities who were going through our problem. How do you deal with social media? And I had the opportunity to actually interject in a couple of those and say, create that persona. Get yourself into these groups. Now, some of them are really harsh. They won't let you in, but you have to work and be persistent and get in there. And it's worked for us. Buckeye is our employee of the month every month. Oh, lost my. So.
Good. Thank you. So we're going to go to David next. Wow, so many questions about the economic development. Let's start with the truck factory, because everybody's heard about that. That and the smart city are the two things that we got several questions on. So let's start with the truck factory, and then we can go on to how the smart city might affect you.
Absolutely. So about 4 weeks ago, we announced that Nikola Motor Company has decided to build a new facility in Buckeye. They are a startup company. They have a prototype hydrogen electric truck. This truck is really going to be a major game changer in the trucking industry itself. The truck gets literally, it has twice the horsepower of a standard diesel. It gets twice the gas mileage. It does not have to be, even though it's electric, it doesn't have to be plugged in, because the hydrogen pack on the back is what actually recharges the battery. So only once every 1,200 miles do you need to refill the hydrogen in the tank. It's totally zero emission, no pollution whatsoever. The trucking companies are, here we go.
Thank you.
Trucking companies are absolutely chomping at the bit to get this new technology. Again, they really see this as a major change in the industry. So you probably have read there are a lot of companies out there exploring electric trucks. Tesla has made an announcement, but honestly, they are nowhere near as far along in terms of the development of that truck as they let on. Elon Musk said they'd be selling it next year, but it is not going to happen. So Nikola is really seen as the leader right now in this. So they will be coming out to Buckeye, building a new facility out on Sun Valley Parkway. It's roughly going to be at the Cactus Road alignment. There are no cross streets up there at this point in time, but it's the entrance to Trillium and Douglas Ranch. And they will be building a 1 million square foot facility. It is a $1 billion total investment in the plant and equipment, hiring over 2,000 people. And these are, this is not like a standard auto manufacturing blue collar. I mean, these are going to be pretty sophisticated jobs. Average wage levels over $80,000. There are a lot of engineers, computer techs, and so on that will be working at this facility. I'm absolutely thrilled because this is, again, a game changer for the city of Buckeye. As the mayor mentioned, we've seen numbers from around the country that suggest for every one job, you could have as many as 10 other ancillary jobs, from suppliers, service providers. I mean, you're going to need restaurants, you're going to need gas stations to serve everything out there. And so it really is going to be a major game changer for the city of Buckeye. This is the Eldorado Holdings folks who own Douglas Ranch see this as the kickoff piece that's going to get Douglas Ranch going. Douglas Ranch in and of itself will be the largest master plan community in the state of Arizona. Ultimately, there will be 300,000 people living out there, so it's a huge area, and this is going to get that whole thing going. So we're extremely excited about this project and the implications to Buckeye and to what will happen on the entire Sun Valley corridor. That whole area we're really seeing as having opportunity for a lot of these advanced manufacturing, advanced technology type companies. Douglas Ranch is being planned as a smart city, as the mayor talked about, with all kinds of opportunities. Belmont, which is owned by Bill Gates, is right next door. Again, this whole area could become kind of that whole smart city capital of the entire country in terms of the type of development that goes out there. So timing-wise, they hope to be breaking ground and doing at least site work by the end of this year. They want to get under construction on the building itself in 2019. They want to wrap that up by the end of 2020 and be in production in 21 and turning out trucks out of that facility. So it's going to have a big impact. Right now, the company is temporarily headquartered. They grew up in Salt Lake City. They've got about 50 people right now, engineers and people doing the prototyping for the product. They are going to actually be moving down here this summer. They've secured a temporary facility. It's actually just south of Sky Harbor. I know it's a long way away, but that will serve as their headquarters for a couple years, and then when the new facility in Buckeye opens, they'll be moving everything out there, and that will become the opportunity. So sometime in 2020 is when they're going to be ramping up the hiring, the people that will be working at this facility, and obviously it's going to have a major impact in terms of housing needs for the far West Valley. Right now, the closest subdivisions would be Tartesso to the south, about 8 miles south. Festival Ranch is about 6 miles to the north. And then obviously continue out into Surprise or into Buckeye, Goodyear area. So we expect a lot of the people that will be working out there will want to be living relatively close to that area. And so again, a major impact certainly for this group.
Great. And so let me just ask you about this. So you mentioned that the trucks have the hydrogen. We don't have a lot of hydrogen stations around.
Right.
So just, do you happen to know what that planning is to get that fuel?
Nikola is actually planning on constructing roughly 50 hydrogen fueling stations around the country. Again, you don't have to be as close as gas stations because you can go 1,200, 1,500 miles between recharging the hydrogen. So they're going to be building a series of stations around the country in order to do that. Again, I think this technology is going to explode. I think you're going to see other groups, doing something similar, and therefore you'll end up with a whole lot more fueling stations getting developed over time. The other thing, just quickly, Nikola also has a UTV, a four-wheel drive little UTV that they are planning to build, and actually have a military version of that that they're talking about with the Marines and Army in terms of ordering those. So that could actually be as large of a component as the trucks themselves.
Wow. So as we were talking about smart cities, and there's different people have different versions of what their vision of a smart city is going to be, but they all revolve around that nucleus of technology being the center of the development and what the city is about. How is that impacting Buckeyes, first of all, what they see they need to do as far as their own infrastructure, their own growth, their own considerations for what they need to have in place in the future as these smart cities come and they expand, and they are a little bit different from each other. It's not one template. So what are the considerations that you have to be thinking about?
Well, the problem is, again, no one really can define exactly what that means in terms of the actuals yet. So as these places are starting to develop, we will be working hand in hand with them. So there can be, I mean, as Mark talked about, you know, for water meters, you know, the technology that sends the information not only to the city but to the customer directly as well. And so we'll be working, you know, again, hand in hand to try to create those technologies to make life easier, better, you know, more successful for people as they go.
And has it changed maybe how their city's general plan has it impacted the general plan to any great extent, or?
It hasn't yet. Again, we don't quite understand the actual implications of what all this is. But it's likely, you know, we may need, you know, less land in the future for roads, for parking, with autonomous vehicles. Yeah, you don't have, they drop you off, and you don't have to have a parking spot at your office. I mean, things like that, as people have talked about, you know, ultimately are going to be the implications of this.
So speaking of the smart car, the driverless cars dropping you off, Waymo has their plan, and they're all over. They're in the East Valley, but they're all over the place with their testing and that type of thing. And that Belmont facility that they're talking about, that Cascade Partners are part of, that smart city that Bill Gates is part of. They're talking about Waymo being that type of. So when you think about that, that goes to infrastructure concerns.
Absolutely.
And there's all different kinds of, there's the water, there's streets, there's electricity. So how do you make sure that what you envision as an economic development director can actually be done by people like Mark, who have to put in the physical?
Well, I rely on people a lot smarter than me to help figure that out. But yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of implications like that. I mean, we've talked about I-11, for example, being the first smart, you know, highway, and actually having sensors embedded, you know, in the pavement that would facilitate autonomous driving and automatic recharging of electric vehicles as they're driving on this. So I mean, there are all kinds of ways, and again, we'll be working together as the technology develops with the development companies and really trying to make all that happen.
And then Mark, as you're listening to him with the great dreams and cities and what is out in the future, you're the one who has to do something physical to make sure that all functions. So how do you interact in this process?
I am part of the executive team that, you know, sits and talks with these folks, because I do have to have that planning. And like the mayor said, you know, we can't look at 3 or 5 years down the road. We have to look at 50 years down the road. And the biggest issue is there going to be water in 50 years? Is there going to be, you know, how are we going to be able to serve this community? Fortunately, you know, Douglas Ranch and this area sits on a great aquifer. It is groundwater. The Hacienda River subflow there, and it's got a lot of water there. And it's got decent water. So, you know, the level of treatment, well, we'll probably will always have to do arsenic treatment of some sort. The TDS, the salts, are not in the Hacienda as they are down in the lower regions of Buckeye. But, you know, we do have to plan to make sure that it's not simply 100 years. Can they, you know, we don't want to only plan for 100. We want to make sure that after 100 years, not many of us will be around, but we want to make sure that our grandchildren are still able to be served in that area. So we're looking for those new resources. We're trying to develop those. You know, it's hard to come by. CAP water is the main river source, or the main source of water for most of the valley. Buckeye was not in a position at the time when the river was allocated. So there's going to be some expense that's going to have to be, you know, we're going to have to be a part of in order to bring that sustainable water. But, you know, we'll be ready to do it through great engineering practices and good visioning. You know, make sure that we can sustain for the long run is really what we're working towards.
Great. So we had some very specific questions about some of the development and where it's going in Buckeye. Let's start with the Jackrabbit exit, the Jackrabbit area, and Verrado, which we got a lot of questions on, mostly having to do with, is there going to be a stoplight at the Jackrabbit and I-10? And what kind of new commercial buildings are you seeing, or are you hoping to get stores, restaurants, that type of thing in that Jackrabbit area and also in Verrado?
Okay. The whole area from our eastern border, which is Perryville, west over to Watson, is really the growth corridor in the immediate term for Buckeye. That's where we're going to see the vast majority of new development take place. There are a lot of pieces that are coming together. For example, ADOT will be announcing very shortly widening of I-10. West, it currently goes to 2 lanes there at Verrado. They will be widening out to 85, which will be very helpful. Redoing interchanges to make them able to have the capacity to serve the growth that's going on, things like that. Adjacent to that, the city is working, and we do have plans to add, signals at major intersections. That's a big bugaboo for a lot of people today. The 4-way stops just don't work anymore. We anticipate seeing pretty significant commercial development in those areas. And it will be a combination of both employment growth as well as retail and service opportunities. So south of I-10 on Perryville, we are already working with the developer looking to do 2.5 million square feet of industrial space. That would obviously have a lot of jobs associated with that. Almost a extension of the PB 303 type of activity that we've seen in the west part of Goodyear. We anticipate seeing a lot more retail and service activity in that area. That's primarily going to be at the Verrado interchange. Right now, DMB is working the southwest corner of McDowell and Verrado Way. There's a culvert and a little gas station there. That whole thing is about to develop. They've been selling, and I know Taco Bell is going in there, and Starbucks, and a pizza place, and a vet, and all kinds of things. So that whole thing is looking to develop. Across the street on the east side, they're looking at doing a neighborhood center with a grocery store, but hopefully some other activity. We don't have a movie theater in Buckeye. They're talking about that. Try to get a big fitness center. I mean, those kind of things going in there. And then the big one on that is the infamous, what we call Target Center on the southeast corner, the power center that never got completed, that has the lovely parking lot and nothing else there. But we are working to try to attract some big box users. Retail is real tough right now. I mean, all retailers are being very slow and methodical in terms of any new stores, but given the growth we are seeing in Buckeye, ultimately it will absolutely have to have, perhaps a Target, maybe a Costco, a Home Depot. Those kind of stores are very likely to go in that area. So that whole kind of corridor in there is really where we're going to see the vast majority of our growth in the coming years.
So let's talk a little bit about the transportation, and particularly when you look at Buckeye, they are going to be in the center of several new highways and freeways. We have the I-11, the expansion of I-10. At some point, 85 is going to have to bloom. And then you have the Highway 30 coming out south and crossing over towards Avondale and Tolleson. That really puts you in the center of being the transportation center for our area.
Yep.
And potentially for the state. So talk to us a little bit about how that is, what you see in the future, and just we had some questions about people who are living on the freeways and highways, or potential ones, noise abatement for them. But overall general, and then also noise abatement issues for them.
One of the major areas we are focused on in economic development in terms of attracting new companies is the whole logistics, distribution, warehousing, transportation sector. We see that as probably the biggest opportunity for Buckeye exactly for those reasons. We've got great highway access, we've got rail access, we've got an airport, and it's really the first piece coming in out of LA, and also the only area in the valley where a truck can do a one-day turnaround from Buckeye to Port of Long Beach and back in one day. You can't do that anywhere else, and so the trucking companies are very interested as a result of that. And so I think the whole logistics center is likely what we're going to see a lot of activity. I'm actually guessing the biggest area where we're going to see that is south of I-10 and west of 85. That whole area, which is primarily farmland today, out toward the Buckeye Airport. You've got the rail line to the south. So that's where we're probably going to see that type of activity taking place. And likely that's going to be, again, one of our biggest areas of economic development opportunities. Secondarily, we're going to see opportunities again along the Sun Valley corridor with, again, advanced technology and those types of opportunities. So those are really the two big targets we're going after today.
So if you aren't familiar with where Highway 30 is proposed to be, it's supposed to go from 85, so south of 10, off of 85 and head east onto the other side of Tolleson. So think about that backbone of all the manufacturing that's back there if you think about how this county is. You can go to wemargad.org, www.wemargad.org, and I have a map and an illustration and talk about that Highway 30 so you can see exactly where it's going to go. I also have an article up there about the proposed I-11, so you can see where that's going to go as well. So as you start trying to think about this, when you look at those maps and look at those, it's really interesting where we are positioned in the West Valley and the opportunities that are going to rapidly come our way. And Buckeye is going to be in the middle of a lot of that, so it's amazing.
Buckeye is absolutely in the path of growth, and as the East Valley becomes more and more constrained. Even like Gilbert is approaching build out. I mean, you're running into mountains, you're running into Indian communities, you're running into national forest land, and so basically the entire East Valley is going to be slowing down in terms of growth. Mm-hmm. That whole bubble, as the whole metro area continues to grow, is going to keep pushing to the west. And Buckeye is absolutely in that path of development. We go from almost Gila Bend to almost Wickenburg. So we have the entire western swath of the valley. As the mayor said, 600 square miles, of which only about 5% is developed today. And so we are going to be the recipient long term of the growth of the valley. I always joke, for those of you who still plan to be here in the year 2100, you will be living in the Phoenix Buckeye metropolitan area because those will be the two largest cities in the valley. So it's coming, no question.
So part of this, you mentioned the similarity between some of your development in PV 303, and PV 303 is a lot of it is the foreign free trade zones. Mm-hmm. So do you have large swaths of land that are already designated as foreign free trade zones? Or are you in position to help the individual companies be identified as a foreign free trade zone?
The entirety of Buckeye falls within the FTZ 277, which is the same foreign trade zone as what they have there. Westmark actually manages that on behalf of all the cities, yes. and so any place basically in Buckeye, we can offer the FTZ benefits to companies. Nikolai is taking advantage of that in their location, so absolutely we can do that.
So if you're commercial and you're interested in that, or you're residential, you're not familiar with that, you can go to the WeMarGad website, and I wrote an article, and it has a map of the foreign free trade zone area that David's referring to. So you can see what it is and where it's going, because eventually that's where your clients are going to need to have a home, is where those things are being built up, and it's really a big deal for this area. It has helped immensely, people taking advantage of that. I want to switch over to something. We had a question come in that said, I've heard there will be a recreational lake in the Buckeye area. Is this a true statement? And then when the mayor mentioned CAP and surface water, are you planning to have a lake that is the surface water? Is there a recreational lake component or anything?
There actually is. Just south of downtown off of Miller Road, if you take that to the very end, there were some old quarries down there that have filled with water over time, and we just call it Buckeye Lakes, but there are actually 3 smaller lakes down there. A private owner has actually acquired those and is working to create recreational opportunities there. I mean, they're talking having water skiing and maybe even a resort and all kinds of things. So it would be a great opportunity there. I don't think that's part of our water master plan. You're not counting on that for major surface water, are you?
No. The infill of those old quarries is from the underflow of the Gila River, and in order for Buckeye to develop in the south, we actually have to pump that down through what's called the waterlogged area, and we actually have to pump it down to allow farming to continue to work in that area. This just happens to be daylighting of water in an open pit from the construction of these mines. So the benefit is that there are lakes down there. They're brackish water. They're not a water supply, but they do fill the need of potential recreational opportunities. So an entrepreneur is taking advantage of it.
That's
We'll
great.
see how it works out.
There you go. And so if you do get that water from CAP, what are your plans for that surface water? Is it going to be in a tank? Is it going to be in some other facility? What are you thinking about for that?
Ultimately, we can do two things with CAP water. We would love to be able to put it into service immediately, but CAP water will require treatment, which, like as the mayor said, depending on the level and the amount of water, depends on the size of the plant. It could be tens of millions to hundreds of millions of dollars before we're entered. But we still have to acquire it. And 4,000 acre feet that he mentioned, isn't, right now we pump a roughly, I'm going to go back to the math real fast. We're roughly pumping about 7,000 acre feet to serve today's public. So 4,000 acre feet is just part of what we're dealing with today. So we have to look for more of those renewable sources. The other thing we do with CAP water is we actually recharge it. And it's a little more cost effective to do that, to actually get it off the canal and put it back in the ground. Every major city in the valley does that right now through one mechanism or another. Buckeye's looking for the opportunity to find that right spot, because you just can't open a faucet and put it on the ground. It's got to have hydrologic ability to get down to the aquifer. There's a lot of clay, a lot of areas that water just will not permeate. So identifying those spots, making sure the infrastructure can get there, building the facility, and then getting that water back in the ground, so as we pump it out, we can put it back in.
If you're unfamiliar with CAP and how they function, we're in an AMA out here, what that is, and then how cities have to do the recharging and what that is. We did a 3-hour day last year with CAP, or earlier this year, with CAP, and the city of Avondale in that case came out because they do recharging. You can go to wemargad.org and look under videos, and you can watch the whole 3 hours or any part of it you want and learn about water in this state from the time it comes, CAP gets it all the way till it comes out to your spigot, and it'll help you understand a little bit about what the water resources folks have to deal with. I think you had a quick question, didn't you?
I just wanted the website.
The website address is www.wemargad.org. wemargad.org. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Did someone else have a quick question they wanted to ask? I thought someone's hand started to go up. Okay. All right. So we have just a few more minutes. I'm going to ask each of you to tell us what you see as one of your biggest issues that you will be dealing with in the future, and one of the biggest opportunities you see. So opportunities and issues sometimes go together, but there's ways that you're trying to think about to solve some of that and really get to where you want to be in your 50-year, 100-year dream. So let's start with you, David.
Well, my biggest issue is this guy sitting here. No. All joking aside, Buckeye, the biggest thing the challenge we're facing today is infrastructure, and especially water sewer infrastructure. And given the growth that we have going on, we're always in kind of a catch-up mode. But we do find ways to put it together. But that's really the biggest thing I have to fight all the time. And we've got plenty of land, we've got political support, we've got a lot of great services and so on, but it's just getting the infrastructure needed to support major companies that tends to be my biggest issue today. But the opportunity is huge. Again, Buckeye has so much land. we're in the path of growth. We are going to be growing very rapidly. We've seen the growth in residential. That is actually accelerating even more. Last year we did 2,200 single-family permits, and this year we'll probably do 2,500 to 3,000 permits. So it's growing like crazy. But we do need the jobs, we do need services, retail. I mean, all those things we're way under where we ought to be as a community. And so, again, it's, we have the opportunity with growth. We just have to find ways to channel that growth appropriately so it works for us.
Water is the hugest both opportunity and challenge that we face. Dave is right on. Infrastructure, as the mayor said earlier, it just costs. It's not something that people get for free. A lot of times during the hotline process, people are saying, well, water should be free. Water's a right. And I've always responded to people, water is free, okay? The pipes, the pumps, the electricity, the chemicals, the treatment, the operations to get it to you, so that when you open the tap at 2 o'clock in the morning to drink some water, it's there. The availability 24/7 for you to be able to use the facilities or use water is what we do. But that's not free. I mean, and people have to understand that. The other thing people have to understand, and probably our biggest challenge, is we do have a lot of water, like the mayor said, but it's all impaired in one way or the other. It's got arsenic, which requires treatment, salt, which is the biggest cost. Because to remove salt, there's only really one major technology that's even near affordable, and it's called reverse osmosis. And many of you know, you may have a reverse osmosis unit under your sink, and you understand the technology of taking salt out. When we do it on a mass production scale, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars to be able to provide that water. We have a lot of water, but it's going to require that level of treatment. We're at that crossroad. I use the term, we're a little town wanting to be a big city, and we're a big city wanting to remain a little town. And to remain in that little town atmosphere, you have to try to hold the cost down. But if you really want Buckeye, and we really want Buckeye to grow, there's a cost that comes with that. Now, we're able to do a lot with our developers. The developers do help with the infrastructure costs, but once they leave, once they've built it, and we have to maintain it going forward, and replacing equipment over time takes a lot. Asset management is huge in our business. Aging infrastructure, you've all heard and read about it. We've got pipes in the ground that were built in the 20s when Buckeye started. We're now going through a process of trying to replace those. That takes money. So having the water and the sewer capacity available for Dave to go out and sell Buckeye is my biggest challenge, but it's also the greatest opportunity, because if we do it right, Buckeye will be a great place to live and work and play.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming, spending the morning with us. We really appreciate it. Please thank our guests.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming as well. I really appreciate you coming.